morning. We're so excited because this speaker is, if you weren't excited when you got here, you will be. His enthusiasm is contagious for sure. And he is the design and facilities manager here at the library, and he's going to talk about the community garden and Lord only knows what else. It'll be fun. So welcome, Butch Smith. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Butch. That's who I am. Yeah, I guess what we'll do is we'll kind of go over kind of how this first inaugural year went with the community garden. And then we'll talk a little bit about the remodel. So I got some updates for everything as we're kind of chugging along. I'm very glad that I get to stand up here and be happy and not have to be doom and gloom like we're about to get defunded. So that all worked out really well. Yeah, you know, we're still kind of keeping everything in our back pocket, you know, just preparing for 2 years from now, so that'll be the next chance. But if anything really good came out of the whole thing was that people really realized just how important being involved locally is in your local elections and just how something can kind of happen really fast. So let's talk about some fun stuff. Okay, so we'll rewind the clock and we'll go back to kind of like the early part of this year. You know, we kind of launched really late in like June. I think it was like June 8th or June 10th is whenever we opened up the garden. So it was a little late to do, you know, like get everybody in and start planting stuff. So we kind of held off on bed reservations and we just kind of used it as kind of a little play area where we can kind of experiment. So the first real crops that were planted were last year's winter crops into April and May of this year. Everything went like really well. Most of the beds filled up, but we were kind of surprised that people would want to try winter planting at that great of a number. I think we only had like 9 beds not checked out of 40. And everybody's crops did really, really well, just like our little experimentation crops did during that previous summer. Everybody was really having a good time. We were kind of working some of the kinks out. Everything really seemed like it was working really well. A lot of groups like individual clubs and homeschool groups really jumped in there, just trying to do like, you know, winter classes and stuff like that. Cause it's just, you know, winter is not something, you know, people think about doing a lot of planting around here unless you're really into it. So then we rolled out into spring and then it just went nuts. And like all the beds gone. And I was kind of like, okay, well, let's kind of see who is really excited to check stuff out and then kind of lingers. And they usually had about 2 weeks, you know, that they needed to be moving on their beds before it would roll over to somebody else. Sure enough, right after they opened, about 2 weeks later, boop, everything starts coming up. Everybody was planting their stuff, just really participating, a ton more homeschool groups. And they were making these cute little signs that were saying like, you know, the such and such planting group, and then giving their, you know, gardens little names and stuff like that. It was really nice, especially if I could catch a few different groups or families up there and they were all talking and showing like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Oh, I've never done that before. And that is like exactly what we were hoping, is that people would kind of get up there and share some knowledge. We had Tiffany, our children's librarian, and a few of the other staff and some regular patrons were really into doing seed saving and doing a seed exchange. Tiffany in particular was working with a program that this was her first year being involved with them. So that's why a lot of the stuff, whenever the harvest time was kind of over, everybody just let everything go to seed and just had a bumper crop of everything that they were looking for. Tomatoes were going crazy. There are still some people whose beds have rolled over and they're still really heavily producing really good fruit, because normally, you know, kind of peters out there. But yeah, peppers, tomatoes are still going crazy up there. I've been seeing a lot of eggplants. The sunflowers did really, really well. Adam Webb, our director, planted a lot of sunflowers, just kind of an experiment. And what we ended up doing was, you know, they went up, you know, waited for them to go to seed. We pulled a lot of the seeds, and I think I'm going to plant a lot of them just randomly, kind of in little pockets here and there, just because it'll look really pretty. But he had seen a little YouTube tutorial where people would take the really long stalks of the sunflowers, and just before they get to that point where they just kind of want to self-collapse, we headed them off and then trimmed them. And so we were left with about like between 4 and 6 foot stakes. That they're up there drying right now, but they're really good for using as scaffolding, holding up plants. It's just a free way to do it. we're taking this year's and we're gonna try making a bean trellis, the next time around. But I've never known that that was a possibility. But yeah, those things are really thick, strong, woody stems. And the other thing is, if you start building your scaffolding now, like even during the wintertime, they'll still hold up just fine. But those hollow plant stems are really good for pollinators to live in. If you'll pay attention this year, and you'll see that there are some areas that I'll trim back, but there are some that we just completely let go, because a lot of times people will grow these pollinators plants sections up, and then they'll just kind of clear it off like you normally would. But a lot of those pollinators winter over inside of those dead plant stems. So there are certain sections that we just completely let go, so they have a place to live. Let's see, we got our first fruit off of the fruit trees. It was a little bit. I mean, the apples never really got any bigger than about yay big. But even the really small ones were really good. I think we got like maybe 8, because the plants are still going, and Ann helped us out with some trimming, some good, shaping them as, they're kind of coming up. But those came up really good. Our pears were really good too. We only got like 2 or 3 of those. That kind of leads into heat stress. I'm sure you guys all saw it in your areas. It was bad. I mean, those really long extended stretches at 100, 105, even with just making sure everything was just watered constantly there. I was probably doing triple the amount of watering than I would normally do in some of the broader areas, and everything still got heat stressed. At the top over by the very, very top parking area, we've got that maple that was going up there. It just got shocked and dropped all its leaves. They all came back, but then they, kind of got a little wilty again. Same thing with our fruit trees. About half of our fruit trees dropped all of their leaves, just, turned yellow and black and dropped them. But those are all coming back. We'll be treating those this year. We're going to start like an antifungal program that we can kind of help protect against that and make sure we don't get any kind of like cedar rust setting in and stuff like that. But, that's just going to be the way it's going to be. Or if you have not seen it, so you got the main little field up there, and you got the 2 shade structures. And then, so you got shade structure, the amphitheater. Right down the hill from there, you'll see a little green tube with a little metal stake in there. Go take a peek in that. That is one of our 36th generation Ozark chinkapins. We got those from the Ozark Chinkapin Society. If you're not familiar with an Ozark chinkapin, they were wiped out in the chestnut blight, same family. But there's been a group that's been crossbreeding them. And they're also doing this in Canada. They're crossbreeding for stability against the disease, because they all died back, but now they will sometimes come up as like a little shrub looking thing, and then it'll get knocked back again, and then it kind of keeps going up. So this one is like the 36th iteration over time. Very, very rare. You probably have maybe seen 1 or 2 in your lifetime as you're going around, but maybe didn't realize what it was. But it's doing great. We started out from a seed, and now it's about that tall. But you can look in there and see the leaves, and that is how you're going to start spotting those in the wild. You'd be surprised. There was a college student like 10 years ago that did a study, and you can look up online, and he's got the geo coordinates of every one that he found in the Ozarks. Webb and I went out to do some fly fishing on some creeks and went to go try to find one. We couldn't end up finding it, which is probably the wrong area. But look down in that tube, and you can start, once you see what an Ozark chinkapin leaf looks like, you're like, oh, I've never seen something like that. It's just like a really long, kind of thin leaf, but then it's got these little spikes that come off of it. And normally, like out in the wild, you'll see them, the little seed pods. You can eat them. They're apparently very delicious. I used to see a couple as a kid, but I just didn't know what they were. They're like these little spiky things. And so go up there, take a look, so you can kind of maybe spot them, and then just, let somebody know, like, hey, listen, I spotted one of these, because they're, the Forestry Service is also kind of wanting to know where those things are, and just like Master Naturals for one, and stuff like that. We put up bird feeders. If you haven't seen them, we got one right up here and one a little farther up. Just kind of trying to get that cycle going. And the Master Gardeners have been working on doing like a bird habitat kind of area. And when you first walk up the stairs, it's on the right-hand side. That's been really successful. I mean, I'm having to refill those things like every 3 days, and they're the large ones. I mean, they were going crazy up there. And I wanted to tell you about Webb's Crow Friends. So our director was dead set. He was like, I'm going to make some friends with the crows that we've been seeing in the area. So like clockwork, he walks out, and he's got a handful of peanuts, and he walks over to the amphitheater, chucks them in the middle there, and then leaves. And then so over the past year, we've been starting to see them, they start showing up on time. 9 a.m. If you don't see them, you will hear them, because they'll hang around the building around here, and then they'll go eat. So he kept doing it, and it was a week or two ago, he was out at a conference, and so I went ahead and kept it up. And I am not exaggerating. Walk up with the peanuts, and there in the middle, where it's all bare, and nobody goes over there unless there's something going on, but nobody really goes over on the amphitheater. There's a little pile of stones, little pebbles. They all match, and they are not from around this property. They're like some kind of weird little granite. They're from somewhere else. I've been over this place for 3 years now, and they're from somewhere else. And in the middle of the stones was a single scarred dime. Just an old, ratty, scratched up dime. And we had always heard that, when you start, befriending crows, they'll start bringing things in exchange. Like, baubles, like little pop tops from things, just anything shiny. We always hear about crows wanting to go after little shinies. But I kid you not, there was a little pile of weird stones and a single dime in the middle. So now he's just completely over the moon. Give him a little salute, and he goes and takes off. Because of kind of the heat stress, we lost a few of the blueberry bushes. I think we lost 7 or 8, something like that, but some of them are still kind of attempting to come back. A couple of them that we lost are like at the absolute outset, as far away from the sprinklers as you can get. And usually during those times, about twice a week, I'll haul out a couple 100 feet of hose and then kind of manually water those, but it just kind of depends on how it's going out there. So other than that, they've been growing up. The bumper crop, for their size, was pretty good. So everyone was out there eating them, and they bloomed until end of August, we were pulling blueberries off, or normally it's like May is kind of when they stop. So those are going really well. Let's see, I'm gonna do one more overseeding this year of the pollinator areas. A couple of them, you can tell it's just now they're starting to figure out what the conditions are up there. We kind of fertilized and did like a lot of natural fertilization up there. I went ahead and just ran everything. But if you go up there, you'll see that, was it partridge pea and sensitive pea is something that's really popping up there. It's just because the conditions are just right. But now I'm starting to see a little blue stem kind of coming up, which normally you don't see until year 2 or 3 when you do it from seed. That's been going really well. If you go up there now, especially if if the sprinkler on the lower section hasn't turned on, the partridge pea that you see with the little yellow flowers, they look like ferns sort of, but they make these really stiff bean pods. And Webb figured out how they seed themselves. They mechanically seed themselves. So when they dry out, those little bean pods, they get stiffer and stiffer, and then they start wanting to twist. And when it's just right and something hits it, or something walks through it, or the wind blows, they do that. They just release both of their sides and then fling the seeds as far away. And I think the farthest I've ever seen is about 8 or 9 feet. So it's like, you'll see it growing right next to the asphalt, the white asphalt that's up on the top. And yeah, 8 feet away, you'll see the little black seeds everywhere. I'm going to overseed all that again. We'll kind of see how it goes. I want to overseed a little earlier this year. We went a little later last time, but so it'll probably be, I don't know, mid-December, after first frost, because you want that frost upheaval, because the ground kind of raises up a little bit, all the seeds fall in, and it, perfectly plants it. Let's see. Some of the issues that we found so far. The heat stress, there's not really much we can do about that except doing the watering. But keeping weeds and stuff out of the walkways and in between the beds. Let's see, I can't weed eat it because it's incredibly painful because it just flings gravel everywhere. We tried heat. I've got a big blower, it's like a big blowtorch for killing that stuff. The problem is because we're watering those areas, the rocks will hold a little bit of moisture, and so when you hit them with the things, they explode. Also very painful. Like they'll just pop like popcorn. and so we're like, okay, we can't do that. I, of course, don't want to just wholesale round up, weed kill, stuff like that. The walkways, we were thinking like, well, maybe, we'll just kind of salt those areas or try something, but then you've got your runoff, and I don't want it to kind of go out that way. Same thing with up at the top where can't weed eat it, can't do the other stuff. When you try to weed eat around those beds, the way that they're put together, it's like overlapping metal panels, but you always have a little bit of a lip, and as soon as the weed eater string hits that, it cuts it like a razor blade. So I got a special mower. I've got a little push mower that'll go in between the raised beds and between that, but you can't do that whenever everybody's plants are growing out. And I'd always, tomato plants, sometimes you'll scaffold them up, but they've been going really well. People just kind of let them kind of come down. And so I started really stressing out about it, being like, oh, it's not looking tidy. And then the walkways have weeds in them, and there's little things growing in between the beds. And then I was like, who really cares? Like, this is not a botanical garden, and as long as people are able to get in and out of there, that's fine. So I'm still mentally struggling with that of like what's okay and what's not. We may try a couple other things, but I'm starting to kind of realize that, if some grass is growing up in between the raised beds, it's fine. We'll trim the back where we can and how we can, but that's something we're still kind of working on. Does anybody have any questions about the raised beds? We've got, I think I said like 4 or 6 left that haven't been checked out. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll see if anybody kind of rolls off. We've had a couple of people turn them during the spring one, kind of turn them back in. They were like, something happened, I got some family stuff, I'm really not gonna be able to get up there, and they wanted to let go. Any questions about like what we're doing?
What are the guidelines for them to check them out?
They just check out like a library book. You just, we've got a list. Paul handles the kind of, the sorting of that stuff. And basically you check one out, you get sent a form. It's basically saying like, I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to, tut somebody if they're planting something some way and I don't normally want to do it that way. We have not had any problems with pesticide real use or chemicals or one of my worries was that somebody, to get a little over the top on it, somebody be like, you know what, the best thing for beans is you give them a light spray of diesel at the first of the season. That old style remedy stuff where people may have heard something, never really ran into that. Theft. Some concerns about the garden when we started this was like, what if somebody comes and picks all my tomatoes? What if somebody comes and picks all this stuff? It's, whenever we were building the garden, and something we operate on here is like the 3% rule. Like data shows that no matter where you go in the world, it's only about 3% of a given population that will take advantage of a situation when given. We're not going to plan for that 3%. Like we're not going to put big high fences and barbed wire and locks and keys and stuff like that. I think we had one person who said that they think like maybe one of their heads of broccoli had gotten taken. And again, it also goes to that thing where like if somebody's coming by and just really needs that, or they're just like, it wasn't a problem. And if it becomes a problem, then we will deal with it then, but we're not going to be kind of preemptively, turning it into Fort Knox up there. But to go back to your question, you just check it out, you fill out the form, you say, yeah, that sounds good. And then we have like the seeds available in the seed library. We will water generally a minimum of once a week. It really just depends. When it's super, super hot and stressed, then I will water a little bit more, but it's one of those things where I can't water too much because if somebody happens to plant something that goes a little drier, but we won't let anything die, that we want to make sure like if somebody isn't able to make it one week that their plants are going to.
So then if I checked out a bed, I wouldn't have to run up here and water.
Generally once to twice a week, it'll be perfectly fine, but then other than that, it'll be your thing.
Okay.
The water usually gets turned on. I try to get it turned on first thing in the morning, so it's usually between 7:30 and 8, the water's turned on, and usually by about 5:30, we turn it off. We kind of ran into some problems where like sometimes when I'm not here, the water wasn't getting turned on, but we're going to be working on something here shortly, and we're putting in master gardeners and hot spring stormwater program and stuff. We're putting in a rain catchment system on the back of the shed, so that way that will help, 1, collect that rain when we are getting rain. 2, when we hit the dry season, it won't matter anyway because whenever I run my big industrial water, cannons basically, it hits the roof of the shed anyway, and then it'll get collected. So awesome, win-win. We'll have that set up for like water on all But generally, yeah. And then, it's like you got to have your bed cleared out by the time it is. You'll be given the opportunity to like roll over if it's not already on hold. We haven't run into that yet where somebody had to lose their bed because it was on hold. But it goes for 6-month stretches. You got your, spring, summer, into fall, and then your fall, winter, into spring season. So, no, we've been running a real simple, not a whole lot of rules, and it's been going really well so far.
Do you have a timer on your water so that you don't have to rely on you being here?
We want that, but
Yeah.
there's two issues that we ran into. One, we're on a 2-inch riser, which is enormous. I've got enough water pressure up there, I kid you not, to feed a small subdivision. So it's a 2-inch riser. 2-inch risers, you don't normally put timers on those, but you can. The second thing is we have no power up there. That was one thing we flat out could not afford. So if we did want to do some kind of mechanical timer of that size, you generally need some kind of power source to it, even a small one. So we have been working with a few of the plumbers to see if they can kind of come up with a solution, because we can always look to do solar, do like just a little pump thing that goes on top of the water box. The biggest problem is that we don't have power up there. We were looking at running power from the pole that's over there by the raised beds down, because we want to put in a community food cooler for people to, I've got too many tomatoes, what am I going to do with it? You basically kind of need a tomato, take a tomato. We were looking at putting it up there and running a little bit of power to that, but now it looks like we're going to kind of tie that in with a teaching kitchen and put it right outside there. But yes, I'd love to put a timer on that.
The reason that I ask is your timing of when you're watering in those really hot summer months, you're much better off to water between 4 and 8, and then not water during the middle of the day, because you'll get so many diseases.
Yeah, I usually.
And it just, if you're sprinkling overhead, about half of that evaporates before it hits, and it's a real waste.
Yeah, I've been trying to, whenever I come in and open it, it's usually first thing in the morning is when I'll water, so it's usually between 7 and 8, usually about 30 minutes.
That's why.
Yeah.
If you could do 3 hours before that, and
Yeah.
not water, if you had time.
Yeah.
If you had time, you're not gonna do it.
I would love to put a timer, and like I said, we're
And that
definitely
way,
wanted.
that midday watering, you could cease doing it.
Yeah, I try not to do it. And the other thing too is I have to get here as early as possible, because wind is a big issue too. Because if the wind is, generally wind is blowing this way across the garden or this way across, just depending on the day. And usually any time after 9, it's so windy that I'll lose 15 feet,
Yeah.
And then we're also looking at adding in another sprinkler a little farther down towards the entranceway to keep that area a little bit more watered. And also just for filling buckets and butterfly areas and bird baths and stuff like that. But yes, I very much want, really the biggest problem we run into is the 2-inch riser thing. It's generally people don't put a timer on something that goes in for a subdivision, because we just needed a lot of water pressure to throw. It throws at 95 feet. It's what they put on commercial agriculture areas. And we've got it down to like on a nice windless day, about 95 feet. Anybody else? All right. Let's talk about the remodel. Okay, we'll talk about the remodel, and then I'll get wrapped up here. Everything's going really well. So right now, due to some very hard work on our director's part and our bookkeeping department. So if you didn't know, I'll give you a quick little idea of where the money is coming from, because this came up during the defunding thing. So the entire remodel project is non-tax money. You cannot by law use tax money for capital projects like this. The money that comes out of property taxes via your car, your house, or whatever, that goes into what's called maintenance and operations. That is books, salaries, power, repairs, yada yada, what it takes to run a library. So the money that we're using is 17 years of scrimping and saving. It's some state awards, some federal awards, when people pass away, when people give us donations, literally the change that goes into the coffee machine. That stuff kind of gets put into that account. So the construction and the what's called the FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, right now is budgeted at $8.3 million. We had, when we started this, really pushed the GCL Plus, then we had $5 million in hand that we could use. But due to a lot of hard work with the director and our bookkeeping, they started rolling that into, if you've ever driven by a bank OZK, and they'll be like, hey, we've got a 12-month CD that's running at like 5.5%, which is unheard of. And then it started to go to 10 months, 9 months. Now it's at like a 7-month CD. So what they've been doing is taking that money and rolling it over and over again. Literally, like Julie will come into the office, be like, accounts 1 and 2 go into stasis today, so go take this check, go to bank OZK, close that other one out, open this one up. So now we have when we will begin construction, which will be at the beginning of Q2, we have $6 million, but we're still short. And what we're short on is for new tables, chairs, fixtures, the other stuff that goes into it. We've got enough, generally, we believe, for the construction, but now that's what we're fundraising for. We got a couple other things in the works. We're hoping to maybe make some announcements here pretty soon. We're looking into these things called new tax credits. That's like a very complicated, very involved federal program where we can maybe get some help, where basically it's sort of like a loan, but as you make payments on the loan after a certain time, the rest of it is forgiven. It's just a government program that was basically to make up for redlining in the 60s. So we're working on that. We were looking at a federal earmark from Senator Bozeman's office, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for this year. He worked with someone else, and they're going to be putting a lot of the money that was going to go to hopefully this and a few other things into the stabilization of the Army Navy Hospital, which I would have loved to have gotten that this year, but I totally understand why that's a priority. But we're going to go back and maybe look at 26, because the construction will go from 25 to 26. So we are still fundraising. If I think I may have talked about it last year, but on gclplus.com, you can go through the regular website. We've got a way to set up where you can do like a $5 a month, annual or monthly little thing. Like every 5 months goes boop, there's another $5. Boop, it's another $5. I think I figured it up where it was like it's like 500 people out of 100,000 set up for like $5 a month, just recurring, that would completely pay for our summer reading program, and we wouldn't have to go through. So you may not think that little donations make a big difference, but they really do. We just got a donation on Monday where somebody came in and gave us $3,200, and that $3,200 is enough to buy the recording equipment for the recording area that we want to put it in. So you'd be surprised, pennies really do count. I'm working on a fundraiser that could be kind of a really cool big deal. We're kind of working the kinks out about that. It has to do with cow poop. So really super excited about that one.
They're laughing, but that is important. It's very hard to actually get manure.
Around here, yeah, because a lot of them just let it go fallow. Nobody actually goes and
That's
mulches
right.
that stuff.
Not just cow, chicken and goat and rabbit. Rabbit is gold.
Well, now, did I mention the not this time, but maybe the last time we met, the chicken coop? We've had a group that's reached out that wants to put in a chicken coop up there at the shed, which I'm all in favor for, but it's going to take some serious negotiations because, it is like pulling teeth to get people to help me up at the garden and raising livestock. It's like, okay, who's going to be responsible for these chickens? Who's going to take care of these chickens on the weekend? So we're kind of working on that.
The city
stuff.
will allow you to do that?
Yes, that is the actual thing, and that's another one. We got to make sure that there's certain regulations and handling and yada yada, a certain distance from the actual crops. And I'm really excited about that, but that is a can that I'm full. Remote locations. So we're honing in on 2 remote locations. We have to move out of this building during the construction project. We just got keys. We now have a little tiny office annex over there in the Rick's building. We're going to be moving our bookkeeping and marketing into that in the next few weeks. And then that'll be the spot that Webb and I will kind of hop back and forth in between, because we'll be located over here during construction, but there are going to be times where they're like, we're going to be pouring 19 tons of concrete above your head today. We're going to be doing a lot of welding, so you don't want to be in here with the acetylene fumes. So it gives us a place to pop back and forth to. Right now we're looking at the mall, 4 units of the mall, waiting to get a quote back on that one. And the second one is the Sky Bridge that goes over Broadway. The big expansive glass thing that used to be the ABT building. They sliced it off and now Regents is on the other. Everybody, we all totally want that space. It is so cool. It is perfect for a library. all the stuff that you probably, if you've ever banked over there years and years ago, it's all still there. The teller line, still installed. The old chrome and wooden like little plinths where you fill out your checking deposit slips and stuff like that, they're all still there. We really want to get into there. We cannot bring the entire collection to that location. Back of the napkin math says that it is our books and our collection is 185,000 pounds. So that's 14 African bull elephants or 3 1/3 humpback whales. So we cannot put all that material up there because that's no. So like the deep stacks will be kind of like what we're planning before. Like the deep stacks will probably be in offsite storage, and we, if you put something on hold and it happens to be in one of those stacks, then twice a day we will go and get them and put them on a hold shelf. But everything else we should be able to fit over there. We really, really cross your fingers. We really want Sky Bridge. It's only for like a year, 13 months, 14 months, however long the construction takes. But yeah, it'll be a really cool area. It's a kind of a nice location. Plenty of room. There's meeting rooms. That's another thing too. It's got little rooms that we can use. There's a small-ish type auditorium-ish area. And the owners have been super cool because they were like, normally, for anybody wanting to do a project, you wouldn't be able to afford it. But they basically came to us and said, what can you afford? And so that's what we're figuring out now. What can we afford to pay the rent? And hopefully it'll be enough.
How long is the whole construction improvement?
If we were to stay in the building, it'd be 18 to 20 months, but if we get out of here, it's expected to be 12. So it'll be a year-long camping family trip. But we can't shut down. We have 22,000 people through the door a month here, physically through the door. We are the second busiest library in the entire state behind Fayetteville. So yeah, Fayetteville, the big one, 147,000 square foot library. And we're all here 35,000, kind of trying to get another 10. So yeah, everything's going great. We're doing that, looking for the location. We're looking to put bids out first quarter of this coming year. So January, February, March. We're going to probably do it a little differently. Originally, it was going to be like you just put the bids out and then see who responds back. It looks like we're going to be doing a different delivery method. So we might be doing what's called an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So basically we say, this is what we are trying to do, and other people apply, and then we can just pick the person, not dependent on price. I'm a big fan of that because on an open bid system, anybody from anywhere, big companies can come in. I want to keep as much of this money in this community. If we're spending $5.5 million just on the construction, I want it to be in the pockets of the people who come here. I want it to go to those families. I want to keep as much as that as we can here. And so it looks like we're going to be able to, once we accept the bid, and then there's always a little negotiation afterwards, but then once we're done, I was stunned when I was talking to the architects. I was like, well, then how long is it going to take to ramp up construction? He's like, around here, less than 30 days. So we've got to get out of here. That's my main priority right now. And then, yeah, we're going to hit the ground running. Right now, we've got, like I said, we've got enough for the construction. And if we have to reuse our same tables and chairs and end caps and displays and stuff like that for a year or two, that's fine. I'm just, everything forward facing is kind of what we're focusing on. But keep an eye out for those little fundraisers, like even the little ones that we do when it's, bake sales and stuff like that, it's fine. But yeah, we're going to be able to, if you're not aware, it's going to be A through C is going to be the new circulation area. Room D is basically getting converted into a cafe and coffee shop. We've been talking with the collective that's down there downtown. They have a lot of social programs that they want to be running, but they can't just because they're up to here tourists all the time. They want to open up a second location and they want to do it here. So then past that, we're looking to put in a full commercial teaching kitchen. I put together the equipment and got everything buttoned up to where it will handle class sizes up to 16. Pretty big. Normally you can handle 8 to 10 in a library. So we're trying to make sure that we can do anything. Like when we do the gardening programs up there, we'll do canning classes, healthy eating, culinary literacy classes. Where does your food come from? How can you make your dollar stretch? That kind of education, and normal fun stuff like cookies and stuff like that. I even have an industrial freeze dryer on there for food preservation, and also a new hot thing for kids and for adults too is that new freeze-dried candy. It's expensive. I mean, people will take a, 50 cents worth of stuff and then charge $6 for it because they have the equipment, and you gotta recover your costs. Wouldn't that be cool if we could end up just, doing freeze-dried vegetables for camping, that kind of stuff?
Do you think it might be an option for local schools to bring a field trip in and do that?
100%.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna end up having to hire a full-time person that's just over the kitchen. When I started writing down all the things that was gonna be responsible for, like I stopped at page 5. So yes, absolutely. And that was another thing, was we need somebody to start building these relationships where they can do stuff. Like, there's a homeschool group right now that's, they're getting a checked out bed, and it's one of those things where they can do part of their classes up here, and then we have the teaching kitchen, that's the second part of it. But absolutely 100%, we're gonna be reaching out to everybody. Anybody who wants to put on a program, be it a school or something else, we are providing that location and the equipment to do it. Something that they would normally never be able to do.
What about meeting room space like this?
More and better.
Thank God.
Yes, because as you know, right now, we've got this giant room, we've got A through D. Normally, the big rooms only have 2 or 3 people in them. We're going with more modular systems. We're going to have a bigger variety. We found that most of our meeting spaces that are needed are like 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 people on a stretch, and then we'll have some other larger ones. And then this will be the books. Well, this part from those posts back is going to be part of circulation. This is all going to be book sale room. And then the multi-purpose room and the book sale room is going to be the new auditorium, but we're going to have it dividable.
How big is that auditorium?
A little bit bigger than this space, yeah. And then there's also like a space that I moved a bunch of stuff around upstairs, and we're going to have kind of an unallocated spot that's really just for library use and some of our legacy and long-term group use. Something that the average person coming off the street just can't check out, so it's like 2 people check out this giant room. It'll be stuff for when Master Gardeners are meeting, they'll have their own little area, or when All Things Fiber's meeting there, or the Mahjong group, or all the larger groups that kind of come in regularly. They won't have to really compete with trying to get their spots.
Right.
But yes, very much so. We're going for flexibility here.
The Master Gardeners used to have their main meeting here, but over the years, they grew and grew and grew, and your capacity, this ran out of capacity, and we had to move about 12 years ago or something like that. But there's a tremendous need for a room that will hold about 160.
That should be able to handle it. And if you haven't seen the renders on GCL Plus, we're also going with on sectionals, big liftable glass, retractable architecture doors. They're basically like giant garage doors that are glass, so we can open spaces up. The entryway right there is built to be a meeting space because we've got those big, comfortable stair steps that have a little table and stuff on them. But yes, very much so, because we need to. Oh, and on all of our books, as much as we can afford, they're all going on casters. So that way, whenever there is going to be a major meeting or something like that, we can literally wheel the stacks out of the way and then wheel them back. Modular is what we're shooting for, because we're having to make our money stretch, and we cannot expand outside of the envelope of the building. So anything that we can do to be flexible has been one of our biggest keywords.
Is there truly going to be a designated teen area?
That will be upstairs. It is the size of a 3-bedroom home. So it's like 1,700 square feet. It'll be a teen area. We are going to be mirroring some of the collection up there, because when I say teen area, it is teen only. We've got our staff and teens, no adults. It is a teen area. So that way we'll have a mirrored collection of hot items up there in the teen area. So that way, you don't have to worry about adults wanting to come in there and be like, well, I need that book, because again, this is a teen area. I think we all remember when we were teenagers, you want your space, you don't want stupid adults there and, messing up your mojo and screwing up your day. So the idea is, it'll be available in that area, so that way they can have theirs. There'll be like a video game playing room. There's going to be another section next to it that's going to be kind of a quieter area for, study, tabletop games. D&D is huge right now. It's like we're just having to constantly expand that. So yes, the teen area. Our 2 flagship areas really on this project are the teaching kitchen and the teen space, because there's nothing like that around.
Is there going to be a music listening room?
There is, and then 2 recording areas. Yeah. I really want to try to get vinyl back in here. I'm big back in vinyl, so I think that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, like the recording areas, So, you've got, let's see, teaching cafe, teaching kitchen, expanded digital literacy, children's area gets much larger. The center area underneath the skylight's gonna be a nice comfortable seating area where people can kind of gather. You got big stairs where people can hang out, performance area, big door goes up to the children's area, children's mezzanine, like their own little version of it on the inside. Go up and there's the teen area, you go around past, admin area, that's where you're gonna hit the makerspace and the 2 recording areas. The recording areas are gonna be like 2 little baby studios. It's good for recording like 1 or 2 musicians at a time, laying down tracks, podcasts. Really want to get our own archive going here. We want to do our own version of Hot Springs StoryCorps. We want people to sit down and tell their stories. We want grandparents bringing grandma and grandpa or bringing their grandkids in and be like, let me tell you about what it was like. And then just record these things and have them available just like the Library of Congress does, but we can do it locally. Same thing with music. We want to get a streaming service going on that's just for Arkansas artists. Instead of releasing a song out into the ether and nothing's happening and nobody ever sees it, anyone will be able to log into the website and be like, what is going on locally in music? Because I like bluegrass, or I like jazz, or I like rock, or I like, country, whatever. And then they can go in there and hear these songs that are locally, like, this person's really good. And then there on the website, we'll let them list all their local appearances. Getting that community engine going, so that way we can kind of basically huddle up, high five each other and be like, okay, these are all the cool things that are going on in Hot Springs and kind of in the county. And then we're gonna have the makerspace. That's gonna be my big
Sounds like this building is going to be 10 stories high.
You'd think so. We're making a stretch. We're really only adding about 10,000 square feet, but we're reworking a lot of kind of badly laid out areas. Makerspace will be my area. That's where we're just gonna have a lot of making and art tools and construction stuff where people can be interested in something and not have to spend stuff on the equipment. Like, I'm gonna be putting a loom. I gotta learn how to work a loom. Because I think we're gonna feel but it'll be stuff like, laser cutters, crickets, 3D printers, jewelry making, glass fusion. I really want to get glass fusion killed in here. Might have enough room for a clay area. Sewing machines, stuff like that. Kids were really getting into sewing, but then it's like, we can set this up for an hour and a half, and then the program's over, everything goes back up into storage because we have no room here. See you in 3 months for the next one. Good luck maintaining your, mental momentum on being excited about something where you can just leave those things out there and let people actually use them.
I'm sure there will be scheduled classes.
Very much so. I've been, when I'm not running around here, like I'm just taking classes and learning how to do stuff. Like I learned how to do Fusion, like I can do AutoCAD now. Now I'm learning digital sculpting. And then just all the other normal stuff I've been tinkering around with.
So then will it look similar to the Innovation Center?
Yes, it'll look a lot like that. And especially when it comes to like entrepreneurship, launchpad stuff, where somebody's like, I know how to do this thing. I cannot afford the $5,000 piece of equipment. If I just had access to one, I can make these things, put them on my Etsy store, and then just start building that capital. And you buy your own equipment. And then if we're real lucky, they love doing it, and then they're going to come back here and teach a class.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we're hoping. Same thing with the garden. Just hoping people get excited and be like, you know what, I'm really excited about this thing. I want to teach other people about this thing, and then you'll just, clubs and stuff for them. So.
Are you thinking these would be free classes, or y'all would try to charge some nominal fee?
Free. The teaching kitchen, unless somebody comes in separately, which it wouldn't be like a library program, it doesn't make any difference if people can't afford it. Like, we are here to provide, and every penny that we can squeeze out of our budget to provide things for people for free, that is what we're here to do. It doesn't make any sense if we're like, guess what, guys, we're having a canning class, and it'll be $28 a person that'll cover your, cover the cans and everything else. Like, no, a lot of places have to charge. We're very fortunate to be very good with our money, and just being really clever. And so, so whenever you hear about all these programs and stuff, like come hell or high water, I want it to be free. Like, it needs to be free, because otherwise, like, we do nothing here but take away the gates. We level the playing field for everyone. And that is our entire point. It's not going to do us any good if we have to start charging stuff. We will do anything to make sure that doesn't happen. And then that's when we'll start getting really creative.
That's when y'all will be over Fayetteville.
Well, the thing is, Fayetteville, it's like every community has its own problems. Every community has its own budget stuff and how money is divided. And we've been running on the same millage for 31 years. Like this whole project of wrapping this up, This whole project is to show you and everybody in the community, 100,000 people, what we can do with what we have. And if everybody likes it and it works and everybody's happy with it, that is when we will start considering in the future when we have to open up more branches. We need more branches. You're supposed to have a branch for every 30,000 people you serve. We serve almost that many a day or a month here. So, you know, we're gonna have to look at that down the thing, but we're gonna get this one locked in, get it done. If everybody likes it, then we will start talking about other branches and doing a bigger library. This community needs a bigger library, but we are bootstrapping this and showing everybody what we can do with what we have before we even.
You're about doubling the square footage, is that right?
No, we're at 34,000 square feet and we're adding 10.
Okay.
It sounds, and you're thinking like, but it's gonna be so cramped. It's by reusing the spaces, moving things
And are you
around.
putting a second story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I were to, well, not in this section, but if you go over, when you guys walk out, you look up at the ceiling, imagine popping one of those ceiling tiles out. It goes up another 16 feet of open air. They built this place with a second floor in mind. And then at the very end, they shorted themselves on our support structures, like those giant columns that you see out there that look like they're all made of concrete, they're huge. No, there's just a 6-inch pipe inside of those. It's not holding anything up but that, you know, the superstructure for the actual ceiling, and that's it. That's where a lot of our construction cost is coming in, because they're gonna drive a vehicle in here, it will flip a gantry 90 degrees and drill 16 feet straight down through our subfloor and into the bedrock below the building, and then put these sleeves in. But it's way cheaper than new construction. We flat out cannot afford new construction.
Are you going over the parking area?
I'm going to start negotiate, we're not gonna expand past the original footprint of the building, but I'm going to beg the county judge to give me access, because that little yard that we have in between us and the health department, technically it's earmarked for future expansion of the health department. I don't think they're gonna be expanding anytime soon, and if they did, they've got other directions they can go, so I'm going to beg on my hands and knees to let the judge be like, yeah, you guys can turn that into an extra parking lot. We cannot afford to pave it initially, so it will be we will grade gravel, and it'll just be like an overflow area. And then like up top, like, you know, for most of our patrons, like it'd be okay, like, you know, they park down here obviously, but there's like another 45 parking spaces up on the next level that never get used. So,
Yeah. Wait for it.
does anybody have any questions? I don't want to keep you guys too long. Any questions on the remodel stuff? Check out, it's GC, oh, go ahead.
When is the, like, how long will it take for the art, community, I don't know how.
I'm sorry, I missed that last little part, what?
To be, here.
Like the art stuff? As soon as we can, especially like one of the construction stuff. That's gonna be nothing to be in the maker space is a full art area. There'll be another one in the teen area too, because, you know, people like to get up there and sketch and stuff. But yeah, just we're looking for a place to move right now. First quarter, putting out, you know, the bid or the RFQ, whichever way we end up going. So yeah, we're looking at starting construction in the second quarter, and then we'll be off to the races. Again, check out it's GCLPlus.com. We've got a lot of renders there. We're going to be putting some new ones up because we're working with a place called Library Interior of Texas. So you get to see some of the furniture is going to look like and get an idea of what it's going to look like in here. And it's going to be great. It is going to be so hot springs, it's going to blow your mind. If you've grown up in this area, you will walk into this building where we're done and be like, I understand everything that's going on here right now, from colors to patterns to lighting. This feels like home. And then people, if you're not from here or if you're just passing through, you will walk in and get a really good education on what it's like to be in Hot Springs and grow up here. Very focused on
Your budget, you have to have all your money in hand before you can award your contract.
Yes.
So you still need 2 to 3 million.
That's to cover the FF&E. We've got enough old furniture that we can use. Like
I'm talking about construction.
Yeah, construction, theoretically, yes. We have enough in hand. I will know there's a construction company here in town that is actually there's two. They are super cool and are going to be coming in there and basically giving us a pre-estimate, which normally you don't ever do. But it's like, guys, we need to know how much this is going to cost instead of we're not having some surprise in the first quarter. And they're like, we would love to. We will come in there and give you a good idea. So that way you can see, yes, you're totally within spec, everything is looking great, or you're a little bit short on this, and then it's because of this, this, and this, and then they'll work with us. I don't like gambling, so that this, within, what is this, October? By the middle of November, we should have an idea on it, within about 5% about exactly how much the construction is gonna cost, but everyone we've talked to says it's looking like you've got enough for the construction project.
I was just wondering, because of the threat that happened with the attempt to defund the
Mhm.
library, and that rallied so many people
Mhm.
because other than the city's free compost facility, this is the best thing going in town.
And it's gonna be so much better, it's gonna be so cool, like, it's gonna be
And
the
yes, it'll
coolest place.
be a showstopper,
Yeah.
but the point is that, that call to action connected with saving our library should be a really good, impetus for you raising money if you've got some kind of a drive going on.
And that's what we're focusing on now that we can, because we were actually about to spool that up and then release that, and then the defunding thing, and so it was like, boom, we just,
Yeah, so you had to
I-
focus on something else, but
Yeah.
it's not ready to hit.
we
that.
got pretty small there. I mean, we were keeping our heads down, the old saying, like, the
Yeah,
tallest
I know.
poppy is the first to be cut.
I'm afraid that when you say that those people won't, adults won't go into the teen area, that's the very area those people will be going into
Yeah.
to try to identify things to create.
And that's why we're having everything outside of there, so people can kind of control. It's all like a lot of damage control, and a lot of just thinking of things that will be beneficial, like having 2 collections-ish, for the teen area. So that way, somebody who does want that material, or somebody who wants that material but doesn't want their child in that teen area for whatever reason, for whatever they want, then boom, 2 birds, 1 stone, good to go. And then by being modular with everything, we can kind of adapt and stuff like that. But we're really hoping that once we really kick this thing off, that people will sit there and say like, oh, I do want to participate. I do want to give a little bit to this. Once they kind of see it going, a smart person would look and say like, well, if a giant entity is going to fall out of the sky and pay for this, well, then I'd rather just hold on to mine. But as we go along, everybody will kind of see what's going on, because there are not any big entities falling out of the sky as far as I've seen. But yeah, so we're just, like I said, if we got to reuse our old tables and chairs and everything else, and so be it. We'll do that for a couple of years, then replace stuff as we can. But like I said, everything. I have not seen a single thing that has made me go like, oh, this is not going to be great. Right now, we're just going to get out of here. And hopefully into the sky bridge. So, all right, well, I think that's it, guys. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time. Anybody have any suggestions and stuff? My email address is bsmith@gclibrary.com. You got any questions, concerns, ideas, anything like that, just hit me up. Like I said, it's going to be this weird liminal period here where, it's going to be real messy. It's going to be a big family, awkward camping trip with everybody. So and we understand we're going to make a whole lot of people mad at some point during this entire process, but hopefully when we're done, everybody will just be like, I cannot wait to get over to the library. So, all right. You guys go enjoy your day.